It's time now for Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Jen Cohen as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives in Yavapai County. And now, here's today's Countywide.
Welcome to Countywide. I'm Paul David. As always, it is great to have you in the studio today. Noelle Fletcher, wildlife biologist for the Prescott National Forest, agreed to stay with us and do a second show on the Goodwin fire. She was a part of the BEAR team, which is Burned Area Emergency Response Team. You guys go in. Welcome back, Noelle.
Thank you.
You guys go in during a wildfire or just after a wildfire and start assessing the damages that fire caused to try to keep the flooding from happening, and where does the fire need help the most, the burn scar?
To identify where there's an emergency situation that we need to respond to immediately.
Right.
And the Goodwin fire was human-caused, outside of the natural timing for
Wasn't
fire.
a lightning bolt that started that guy?
No, it was not.
No.
And we certainly didn't have the monsoon rain for several days, obviously. And
Sure.
so it was just an unnatural setting. And the fuel type was within the timing for the chaparral, because it was in a 40-year-old scar, but it just wasn't the right timing. So in the Goodwin fire, a lot of people have been asking, grapevine, is grapevine okay? What happened to grapevine? Is it okay?
Yeah, now I wonder how many people watching or listening right now even know what this grapevine botanical area is, because I'd never heard of it before.
Right.
So this is going to be really interesting for those of us who want to know what this is.
Well, it's a little gem that was tucked away in the Bradshaws.
Okay.
It's very unique. When one of my first projects I worked on when I came here 20-some years ago was a grapevine botanical area designation. The Nature Conservancy nominated it to be a botanical area, and botanical meaning plants. It had a unique association of plants not found anywhere else. What makes it unique is we're all familiar with the Mogollon Rim. The Mogollon Rim runs east to west.
Correct.
So the canyons coming off of it run north and south. So the sides of those canyons face east and west. Well, grapevine runs east and west. So the slopes face north and south.
North and south, so
So we
completely
have
opposite of everything around it.
Correct. So we have this chaparral south-facing slope and a mixed conifer north-facing slope.
Okay.
And then in the bottom, there's a very unique association of alders and walnuts and a lot of other riparian hardwoods. Very beautiful, lush riparian.
Is there a way for you to tell us just how big the grapevine area is? I mean, how long
It's
it
over,
stretches?
I think it's about 600 acres.
600 acres.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Approximately.
That's good.
And it's always been this really beautiful, unique, hard to get to. So you got to really be in good shape and not like your vehicle to get there, because it's gonna have some Arizona pinstriping when you get done.
As you get in there, it's like this mystical place.
Yes,
in this
yes.
very unusual place.
It's like a whole nother world in Arizona.
That is amazing.
And
okay.
so there's perennial water, which means it's year-round. And then you get to the head of it, and the perennial water is coming from 7 springs that pop out of the wall of the side of the hill.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
amazing.
Living in that spring is something called a spring snail.
Okay.
Now, if you hand me your pen for a second.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. So, can everybody see that? Yeah, that would be about,
The tip of my pen.
the tip of your pen would be about 2 or 3 snails. So, there. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's
okay.
that's a spring snail.
So tiny.
Teeny tiny, and each spring snails move from spring to spring on the feet of birds that go from, they recognize the cottonwoods and the broadleaves, and they'll look for the water. And then once they get there, they kind of become their own little spring snail. So the ones in Grapevine are different from the ones in Nelson Spring, are different from the ones at Verde Rim. So
so they just hitch a ride on a bird.
but they're cousins, but they're different species.
Gotcha. Wow.
And so that was natural grapevine. Then, as you can imagine, with that unique vegetation comes unique wildlife.
Oh, sure.
So it was it's a very, very popular spot with Audubon. Very popular spot. And didn't I get a report a couple years ago of a spotted owl in there?
Oh, wow.
Right.
Okay.
It's exciting. This year we only had a pair nesting. Last year we actually had a pair with babies.
Oh.
Which is very exciting, very exciting. So we have a new spotted owl territory. And then to add to the complexity, as if we didn't have enough, several years ago there was a big fire in New Mexico.
Okay.
And there were some Gila trout that were going to be lost between the ash and the fire and everything. So they pulled those fish out and they put them in 3 different places in Arizona where they would be safe and isolated from other fish, and they could remain pure for taking back to that area when it rehabilitated.
Okay.
And to maintain the genetic diversity.
That is crazy.
Right?
Okay. Holy cow.
Well, guess what? This population, we couldn't get in there fast enough for the Goodwin fire because it went, we all know how quick
it exploded.
14,000 acres in a day.
Yeah, it
right.
exploded. Yeah.
Nobody can anticipate that.
No.
So we talked about it on Sunday, started doing something on Monday, and the door shut Tuesday, and
Tuesday the fire exploded.
And we were done.
Yeah.
We couldn't get in there. At the exact same time, the Fry fire and another fire, all 3 populations were being threatened.
All populations of the Gila trout.
Within like days. And they were able to get into the Fry fire and save those Gila trout. I don't know about the others. So that's a sigh of relief. When it is safe to do so, which will probably be after the monsoons.
Let me ask you this. What makes it so unsafe to go in there?
Right now, there's a picture, there are some pictures of the chaparral is gone on the one side because that's how chaparral burns. It burns in stand replacing fires. If you're down in the bottom of Grapevine, you can't see a whole lot of sky above you.
Okay.
So just this last week, I was on Hyde Mountain. I was at the top of a mountain, and a monsoon storm came in and caught us off guard. So if you're in the bottom of a drainage,
it's even worse.
It's going to be on top of you before you know it. And with all of the recent flooding all around the state, the district ranger has deemed it unsafe to be in there when that flash flooding could occur. And so nobody's allowed in there. Even Forest Service personnel. So a lot of people in the public are worried about it. There are some great pictures. There's an aerial view from the helicopter of Grapevine. And yes, you can see where the chaparral burned, but you can also see that the conifer at the head of the drainage is still intact. Some of it got underburned. Some of it got, there are a few crowning out, but some people hiked to the top of it and were able to take some pictures. And one person went in before we closed it, and there's a picture, I believe you can pull it up, of a turkey and a turkey with her poult. So here it is. The fire's already come through.
Sure.
There's ash, and this person's in there, and there's a mama turkey and her babies.
So wildlife dispersed out, but they're quick to come back.
One friend saw 17 baby turkeys after the fire.
Oh, wow.
Right around in the black.
Okay.
I got a text last week. Hey, I saw a mountain lion in the Goodwin fire. You know, I had video of deer. People had deer moving ahead of the fire.
Let's take our break. We'll come back. You tell us more about the wildlife that's coming back. Okay, let's do that. Wildlife biologist Noelle Fletcher from the Prescott National Forest in studio today. We're talking about the Goodwin fire burn scar, and I believe we could touch a little bit on the Dosey fire too.
Yes, I'd like to.
Because that was 4 years ago, so it'd be great to have an update on that. So stick around. Countywide will be back in just a couple minutes.
So you're looking online now? Yeah, great condition. I hate to see her go, but I really just need the cash. Well, the price is still just $1,000, but you have to send the money now, right now. Well, that's why the price is so low. Like I said, I need cash fast. I can't wait on a check or money order. You have to send cash now.
The moment they ask for immediate cash is the moment you know something's wrong. Think before you send money. Learn more at scamawareness.org.
Orkin has pest control down to a science.
When your business chooses Orkin's Precision Protection Program, you get a tailored pest control program for your specific industry and environment.
Your business can benefit from over a century of experience, training, and scientific knowledge that define the Orkin man.
Maximum protection, minimum exposure, backed by one of the industry's most comprehensive guarantees.
Choose your locally owned and operated Northern Arizona Orkin and get more than an exterminator. Get an expert.
Welcome back to Countywide. Prescott National Forest wildlife biologist Noelle Fletcher in studio today. We're talking about the Goodwin fire scar. She was on the Bear team, the burned area emergency response team. That work's been done.
No, it's being implemented.
Okay, but
the assessment's
continues.
done.
Okay.
The assessment starts before the fire's out, and we identify areas of an emergency.
Okay.
And the biggest emergency for us is losing the soil. Because if we lose the soil, then we lose the vegetation, and we can't get that back.
We've had some bad flood cases down the Mayor area.
We have,
because of that burn scar.
And the challenge is getting those treatments in place to be effective and save the soils and prevent flooding.
This year had to be tough, and it's been like this the last couple of years, where the monsoon hits hard. And it is determined to bring in the moisture.
I knew it was bad when I heard the tone come across my radio, and the recording for the emergency notice said, "Cell is over the Goodwin fire scar."
Yeah.
And the next day it said, "The cell is over Grapevine Creek." When it starts naming places that you know are in danger, then you know. So we're all very curious to get back in and see. But you know who's not waiting to get back in?
The wildlife. I mean, yeah.
Isn't that great?
I remember back when the Yarnell Hill fire happened and the Dosey fire happened, you came in and you had pictures of a black bear swimming in a pool of water.
Yep.
You had pictures of deer. I believe there was a mountain lion picture taking a drink
Elk,
out of the pool.
javelina.
And it was amazing just how fast things come back in. So, I mean, they rebound quick. So tell us what's going on down there.
So I told you earlier, there are pictures of turkeys.
Turkeys.
And I mean, we were still actively fighting fire. And there was ash in Grapevine, and there's a mama turkey with her baby, Pulp, just coming through, looking for whatever was left. What happens is when you have a burn, there's a mosaic of burned and unburned. And there are animals that might escape into the unburned, and then after the fire's gone and it cools off, they can come back into the burn and see what happens. Some animals go underground, a lot of reptiles, and depending on how hot it is, if they can go far enough underground, they can survive. Birds can fly away if they can. Small mammals will also go underground, the smaller ones, you know, the little mice and stuff. Larger animals are going to move away. We had some reports of maybe some bears right around the time of the Goodwin fire.
Okay.
And what happens is when one animal moves out of its, gets bumped out of its territory from a fire, it's not going into empty territory. It's going into somebody else's territory.
Hey, what do you think you're doing in my yard?
Right. And whoever's bigger
wins.
So the younger or older or the weaker animals get displaced. It's a ripple effect.
Sure.
Until those animals can, though, there's a lot of site fidelity for a lot of species. They'll come in, and if the resources are there and they can make a living, they'll reestablish, or they'll, you know, explore and find different parts of their territory and redefine their territories. So deer oftentimes are right back in there. They like to roll in the ash, get rid of some ticks and some bugs. They like the taste of some of the minerals, you know, in the soil and stuff. And the unburned areas are good. I'll tell you right now, with all the rain we've had, that chaparral is going to be about this tall and delicious.
I was going to ask you, it comes back pretty fast, and we had Pete Gordon in here, and Brian was in here as well, and they both talked about just how important it is for chaparral to burn to the ground And then it doesn't take long, it comes right back up.
It's palatable, meaning it tastes good because it's soft.
The young green.
And green. It's not woody, and it's nutritional.
Okay.
Because it isn't. It's putting more into. It's easier to break down than the hard woody stuff.
Okay.
And so right now, I've already had pictures from friends with a carpet of grass. The grasses are sprouting, and the chaparral is sprouting.
That's
and
really good to hear.
It is, and
Yeah.
so the deer and the small mammals and the critters are going to be right back in there, getting ready to go into winter, you know. And so they're exploring it. So on the Dosey fire, I didn't have pictures today.
Goodwin Fire. How long do you think it'll take for an area that is the chaparral covered like that? How long will it take for something like that to really come back? And now I know we've had some rains that have really washed a lot of that off, but it's still there. It's still.
The chaparral can sprout from the base. It can sprout from the roots.
Okay.
So it is still there. Even
a few years, 4 years, 5 years.
What's interesting is I will show people pictures of Granite Basin where we've done our masticating, and I can show them a picture that's 5 years old, and they don't know we've been in there and masticated.
Oh wow! Okay.
Now,
so it's a few years.
It's going to take a few years, but it may look the same, but it'll be very different. It'll still be young, palatable, and it won't behave the same. It won't have the flammability that this 40-year-old chaparral did with all the decadence and the dead material inside of it.
I'm going to say it. It's unfortunate that the burn happened the way it did. It truly is, because I know Pete Gordon had told us numerous times that the Bradshaws are an area that the Prescott National Forest is working on to, do prescribed burns, controlled burns, and to get in there and do it the right way. So this is unfortunate that it's scarred, but the area is, after 4 or 5 years, will look better than it did.
Absolutely. It'll be better habitat for a lot of species. Some people worry about the birds that nest in old chaparral, and there are some bird species that prefer older, denser chaparral. And yes, we have lost some habitat for those birds, but we've created new habitat for the birds and the deer. The mule deer are really going to benefit from this. We have so much chaparral in the forest that we need to have some young, some old, and have different age classes. And so the mule deer are going to really benefit from this burn once that vegetation gets up and going again.
That's amazing, just how fast something can bounce back like that, especially for wildlife. Just to well, it burned, but it's a good point that the animals get pushed out, but then they come back in. We have to take another break. When we come back, Noelle's going to update us on the Dosey fire, which was right around the same time as the Yarnell Hill fire, if I'm not mistaken.
End of June.
End of June. So we will come back and talk about that. This is Countywide. Stick around, back in just a couple minutes.
This is Bruce Morrow, Transportation Manager for Cottonwood Area Transit. Remember, we cover the entire Verde Valley and Sedona. Cottonwood Area Transit has you covered wherever you want to ride in the Verde Valley, all day, every day. Take Cottonwood Area Transit through Clarkdale, Verde Village, and from 26 locations in Cottonwood. With Verde Links, it's a quick and easy trip to Sedona every day. Don't forget our connectors to Camp Verde. Visit cottonwoodaz.gov for Cottonwood Area Transit and take a seat. Let's go ride.
The Q102.9 plays all the hits.
Yo, what's going on? This is Drizzy Drake.
Ariana Grande.
Maroon 5.
This is Rihanna.
I'm Shawn Mendes.
Hey, it's Bruno Mars.
Ed Sheeran.
What's up, guys? It's Justin Bieber.
You're listening to The Weeknd.
Start your day with Brian James in the morning. You'll get at least 10 songs in a row during your ride home with Julie Page.
Zach Sang Show.
Catch the Zach Sang Show weeknights 7 to midnight. And Kelly Fox weekends on your home for hit music. The Q102.9 and 104.9 in Prescott and Cottonwood.
Hello, Mr. Hopkins. This is Sue from Disaster Relief. We're calling neighbors statewide to get help for storm victims. Children, lost parents, homes. You can. Oh, thank you. But could you send the money now? The need is urgent. We so appreciate you. It means so much, but it has to be now. It has to be cash. No credit cards, checks, just cash.
The moment they ask for immediate cash is the moment you know something's wrong. Think before you send money. Learn more at scamawareness.org.
Schools have a big problem. Every year, millions of kids come to class with nothing.
So teachers end up spending thousands of dollars of their own money just to make sure kids have what they need to learn. I'm the school supply fairy. My assistant and I do what we can. But we could really use your help.
Welcome back to Countywide. We've got just a few minutes left of the program. Noelle Fletcher, wildlife biologist for the Prescott National Forest. You can update us on the Dosey fire.
Oh, the Dosey fire. The Dosey fire is looking amazing. I actually asked someone about it literally last Friday as we drove by. I'm like, how's the Dosey fire looking? And somebody's like, it looks great. I have been working with a professor, Dr. Katie Benson at Embry-Riddle.
Okay.
They have a new wildlife degree program.
Oh, wow.
A lot of people didn't know that.
Yeah.
And she and I have been working together both on the curriculum to make sure it's will help people, I guess, get my job when I retire.
Sure.
And she wants to do meaningful field work with her students from Embry-Riddle. And so the Prescott National Forest is becoming their lab.
Hands-on is the best, if you ask me.
Well, and there's such a win-win. Because they want to help us do focal species monitoring or other vegetation monitoring. So we started out kind of simple. I said, hey, I have a project for you. I had a trail camera out on the Dosey fire the year after it happened. So do you want to go put it out again 4 years later and retake the veg photos? So I gave her all of my pictures, my PowerPoints and everything. And she says they've been getting great pictures of at that same tank. It's surrounded by thick vegetation, because before it was black, and they've got the same mountain lions, black bears, elk, deer, javelina, bobcat, and so when she gets back at the beginning of school, because college is a little delayed, we're going to work on putting together something for the website to show people this is what's happening. And the other thing is I'm going to ask her to say, hey, let's pick a spot in Goodwin where we can go do something similar. Put a trail camera out, immediately post-fire, watch the changes, and see, as animals come back.
I love being able to show that too. And we've had folks from Prescott National Forest, I think the Coconino National Forest as well, come in. And it's not necessarily a burn scar that they show us pictures of, but they'll show us a picture of a chunk of forest that's just super overgrown. And you can see there's nothing on the ground, there's no grasses, there's none of that. It's just all these spindly little trees all mixed together. And then they go in and weed that out, pull all that out, do a prescribed burn through the area, get all that undergrowth burnt off, and then come back with pictures, say 2 years later, of just this beautiful, not manicure, I don't want to say it's manicured, but it's just got space to breathe.
It's healthy.
Yeah, the forest has space to breathe. Everything's got a little bit of room to grow and do its thing, and it looks so much better.
It's so much healthier.
Yeah.
And I have some exciting projects in mind that I want to do with Embry-Riddle and some other folks. My idea is I want to use a drone in the appropriate way. I want to fly it through. I want to fly a drone through an unhealthy forest where it's choked out and crowded, and then fly the exact same path after a timber sale. Do it again immediately after a prescribed burn, and then do it again after it's recovered.
Well,
and I want to
really
call
great.
it, bird's eye view of the forest, and it's a forest-dwelling raptor or a bird flying through
Again,
the forest.
I think that'd be a very good educational tool just to kind of show people the before and afters and how these processes work. We're out of time again. I know.
Thank you.
Prescott National Forest wildlife biologist Noelle Fletcher was in studio today. That is today's Countywide. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and we'll talk to you again next time.